Hey, my name is Prince. I'm auditioning for the role of Prince in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Here's my audition. Swipe left. Swipe left. Swipe left. Ooh, she's asleep. That's kind of hot. Swipe right. Are you an everyday nerd? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next episode. Yo, welcome to your Everyday Nerd. I'm your host, Zack Snyder, and today's Nostalgia Monday. Happy Monday. If you're new around here, on Mondays we take a look at things from my personal childhood. The legacy of Disney is massive. They're currently the biggest entertainment production company in the world. They own Marvel, Star Wars, and Fox. They've produced over 1,000 films. They are an empire, and let's be honest, it's a little bit scary. Sometime in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney became a sector of the American government. But just like many of you, I grew up on Disney movies. And if there's one thing that can help me and you forget about the possible threat of global domination, it's nostalgia. Eventually, I'd love to take a look at every movie Disney's ever made, but I thought we might as well start with the thing that Disney's most well known for, and that's its animated classics. Now, I honestly can't remember the last time I saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's definitely been over a decade. I also don't really remember a whole lot about this movie. I know that Snow White goes night-night, I know there's seven dwarfs, and I remember a couple of songs, so I thought it would be interesting to go back and take a look at the very first Disney film. While Disney is as popular as ever, more and more people don't really know about its beginnings. So if you don't know anything about it, the Walt Disney Company started in 1923. For the first 10 years or so, Disney made most of its fame creating animated shorts, many of which would receive some of the first Academy Awards. We'll be talking about some of these in future videos, but in 1938, this is when they released their very first animated film. This begun the golden age of Disney. And now it's not called golden because of the quality of the films, but there are 7 different eras of Disney film history, golden age being the first one, much like comic books. It just means that these were the films that were overseen directly by Walt Disney himself and the ones that kind of put the company into the public eye. So starting off the golden age of Disney, we're looking at 1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You know what? F me, dude. Boom. Check this out. There we go. We're gonna put that right there. We're gonna remove this. I didn't even think about it, dude. Didn't even think about it. Mostly everybody has seen Snow White at some point. But if you haven't, Snow White is all about a princess whose evil stepmother is jealous that Snow White is more beautiful than her. Which I don't completely get, because you're really telling me that this evil queen isn't a baddie? I mean, look at her. Look at her. Ah! Anyways. The queen orders a huntsman to kill Snow White, but he's too innocent to do something like that. So he tells her the queen's plans instead and helps her escape to the woods, where she ends up meeting the seven dwarfs. It's at this point that the movie takes a wild turn, because Snow White and the seven dwarfs end up participating in a hi-ho, she-a-ho. I'm sorry about that. I think somebody gave me the wrong copy of this film. I'm gonna go proceed to bleach my eyes out. So, Snow White ends up being a maternal figure to the seven dwarfs, which is weird enough because they're all grown men, but then you think about the fact they've been living with each other for a very long time, and I think that just means this movie is an allegory for gamer boys. Especially when there's an entire song about washing your hands. One of the things you're going to be wondering during this video is why I don't care for this film that much, and I think a little bit has to do with the fact that there's a song about washing your hands. I'm fairly certain that each of these little dumb have spent weeks without cleaning Dorito dust off of their filthy little hands, and if it wasn't 1937, you would definitely be seeing some Mountain Dew cans and Xbox 360 controllers everywhere. So after all of this mother-son stuff, Snow White ends up being fooled by the evil queen when she gives her a poisoned apple, and then she goes night-night for a while. After what appears to be years and the seven dwarfs standing vigil for her, which is also kind of weird, they probably should have buried her because she looks dead. But it's okay because one day the prince comes, he gives her a little kiss without consent, and she gets awake and they live happily ever after in a castle somewhere. So as you can see, if you haven't seen Snow White in a while, it's a very weird movie. Not only is it weird because, you know, the stuff that I already said in the video, but it's also weird because it's the very first Disney film, and so a lot of people put it on a pedestal. Look at any kind of top 100 films of all time lists, and Snow White is probably on that list somewhere. But I gotta be honest, I really don't care for this film a whole lot. Look, I know it's important to the film history, but there are some elements of this film that are very clearly aged a lot, and that makes sense considering it's almost 100 years old. For instance, Snow White's voice is very annoying. On top of that, she doesn't look like a cartoon character. It very clearly looks like they tried to look at a real person and put her into animated form, which we figured out now. It just kind of looks weird in this world considering so much of this movie is cartoony. All of the dwarfs have their own cartoonish qualities to them, while Snow White looks like it's trying to be a real person. Plus, her voice is really annoying. It's super high pitched. I don't particularly care for the singing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying in a Disney film, it doesn't really work out here. With as much of this film that does age, like the sound production, because it's 1937, the plot that's not super developed, which we'll get into, and I'm probably forgetting some other things, it is amazing how much of the animation still holds up today. There's so many moments in Snow White that I'm just incredibly impressed with the amount of work that went into it, but also the results they were able to achieve almost 100 years ago. I love the eerie forest scene, or the frightening queen transformation scene. The fact that each of the seven dwarfs have their own unique animated qualities to them, or the amount of animals that are on screen at any given moment, just shows how dope this animation is. And just like most of these Disney films, you can just take a screenshot from any part of the movie and it looks like a painting. But of course the animation is great. This is Disney we're talking about. Unfortunately, we gotta talk about the plot and why mainly it's really boring. This film is short to begin with, only about an hour and 20 minutes long. But the main plot itself is even shorter. 90% of the plot happens in about 20 minutes of the film, the first 10 and the last 10 minutes, which leaves us with about an hour of just Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And yes, I know, that's the name of the film. Congratulations! You understand what the movie's about. It's called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and most of the movie is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I get it. I understand. But like, all of it is so just not interesting at all. Like, all we mainly get here is like cooking and cleaning. And like, if I want to see that, I'll watch Food Network. I'll watch HGTV. Let me tell you, Rachel Ray's 30-minute meals are something that I want to get into as soon as I get off of a budget that only allows me to buy ramen every week. If we didn't spend time cooking and cleaning, I don't know what else they could have done with this hour that's left with these characters. I just know that watching it was really boring. And that brings me into the music. The music in this film is fine, but it's very clear that they really haven't figured out the Disney music formula yet. We've got a couple of memorable songs like Hi Ho and Whistle While We Twerk, Whistle While We Work, but the rest of the songs really weren't anything that was either super memorable or something that I really cared to listen to. So we know the animation is great, we know that the music is fine, we know that the plot is mostly boring, which means the last thing we have to look at is the characters. Well, Snow White has an annoying voice, but other than that, her character is just fine. Like, I really don't have any qualms with her. I mean, she can be funny at times, and there's a moment that I'll mention later that I really liked with her. But other than that, I really can't say a whole lot about her, other than the fact that she is definitely the worst Disney princess of the whole bunch. And it's really not her fault. She was just the first one. She can't really do anything about that. When it comes to the prince, he is a prince named Prince. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. The queen is such a funny character because she literally wants to kill her stepdaughter because she thinks she's more beautiful than her, and at the end of the day, she's the one that dies. For films that are targeted towards children, it's wild how many people end up dead in these early Disney films. So guess what? That leaves us with the Seven Dwarfs. Let's go through them right quick. There's Doc. He's the leader of the gang. He wears glasses and he likes to mix up his words sometimes. In other words, he's probably just drunk. We've got Sleepy, who is literally just me. We've got Happy, who is literally somebody I hope to be one day. We've got Bashful, who's me when I'm talking to a female. I'm just kidding. Just like the Seven Dwarfs, I don't ever leave my house. Sneezy is just someone who sneezes a lot. And like, I think that's hilarious, because can you imagine being called Sneezy just because you have allergies? Dopey is just straight up offensive. He obviously has multiple birth defects, and somebody was just like, we're gonna call him Dopey and make fun of him all the time. Which means all these other characters, they're going to hell. And last, but certainly not least, we've got the best character of the bunch, the sexist old man himself, the incel, Grumpy. This dude's great. He starts out hating Snow White, only to eventually be the one that cares about her the most. And then my favorite part of the entire movie is when Snow White is a bit of an asshole herself, and she just straight up makes fun of Grumpy, mocking him.
Oh, you must be grumpy.
Yeah.
At this part, I'm like, okay, Snow White, I see you. You took a DNA
test, turns out I'm 100% that bitch.
So anyways, when you get to the end of this movie, like, I have to say why you would want to watch it, why I would even recommend it to anybody. And there's two reasons. First off, it's historically an important film in film history. It's the first animated feature film in Technicolor. A lot of people consider it the first animated film in general because the films that came before it, the few of them were lost, and Snow White is the only one we have. It started the legacy of Disney, and so like that's why you would want to watch this film in general. But the other reason I would say at least watch this movie once is because it does have a certain amount of charm to it. Each of the Seven Dwarfs each have their own personalities, and it shows between the animation and the dialogue. I do like the dynamic between the dwarfs and Snow White, and I'd say that that makes this film at least a little bit enjoyable. But I still have to say that I don't really care to see Snow White ever again. I'll probably watch it whenever I have kids, like show it to them, but it's not something that I plan on rewatching. If you've never seen it, definitely at least watch it once, again for that historical aspect and the little bits of charm that's there. But overall, it is mostly boring. It is the first Disney film, and they get so much better over time. Well, I guess I'm a sellout now. Today's episode of Your Everyday Nerd is sponsored by Reese's. That's right, you can go to Walmart right now, buy some Reese's, and you'll be supporting the show. I'm just kidding. Reese's does not sponsor me. Hit me up though if you're interested. Instead, have you heard about my Patreon? If you go to patreon.com/ZackSnyderProductions, you can support Your Everyday Nerd. For only $1 a month, you'll help support my dreams of paying my rent on time. You can join the Discord channel. I put stupid memes in there occasionally. You get a chance to see the weekly newsletters that shows all the different content that I do besides Your Everyday Nerd. And if we ever meet in person, I'll give you a hug, with consent, of course. If you play a $3 tier, you get an episode of Let's Talk About It, which is on my personal channel, where you give me a topic and then I talk about it. We've talked about Air Duster, we've talked about Papa John's Pizza, and I even recently talked about Postmates. They're short, sometimes funny, little thought pieces that I like putting out, and so far the people that have become the patrons have seemed to enjoy it a lot. But if you join the $7 tier, that's where you, that's right, you, get the suggested episode of Your Everyday Nerd. I'll talk about whatever it is you want me to talk about on the show in a full-length Your Everyday Nerd episode, equipped with special bits like me eating Reese's on camera. So thank you for watching the episode. Go check out the Patreon and know that in doing so, you'll be supporting Your Everyday Nerd. But anyways, that's all the time we have for today. If you liked the video, go hit that like button. If for a reason you didn't like it, you can hit the dislike button. I don't know why you do that though. That would be upset. I would cry. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe for more Everyday Nerd. We have new episodes coming out sometimes. The plan is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but honestly, like, I just want to put out at least 2 episodes a week. That's the real plan. I'm going to be going through the entire Disney library, so get excited for that. We'll get through it in like 12 years. In the meantime, thank you again for watching the episode, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.